Can one man change the course of history without lifting a single weapon? Can peace and truth be stronger than oppression and injustice? This is the story of Mahatma Gandhi, the man who led an entire nation to freedom with nothing but his unyielding belief in nonviolence. His journey began in the dusty streets of India and carried him across the globe, inspiring millions to stand up against tyranny through the power of peace. In this journey, you will discover how Gandhi transformed from a young lawyer into a global symbol of resistance. You will witness his battles against injustice, his fight for civil rights, and his unwavering commitment to truth and harmony. This is not just a story of one man, it is the story of a movement that changed the world. Get ready to be inspired by the life of Mahatma Gandhi, a legend who proved that peaceful resistance is stronger than any weapon. Have you ever wondered how a single person, armed only with truth and nonviolence, changed the destiny of a nation? In the heart of India, on October 2, 1869, a child was born who would one day lead millions toward freedom. This child was named Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, later known to the world as Mahatma Gandhi. His birthplace was a small coastal town called Porbandar, situated in the western part of India. Gandhi's father, Karamchand Gandhi, was a respected local official. He served as the Diwan, or chief minister of Porbandar, a role that held significant influence in the region. His mother, Putlibai, was deeply religious and dedicated to her family. She followed the principles of Jainism, which included nonviolence, fasting, and compassion for all living beings. Gandhi grew up in a household filled with stories of virtue and moral integrity. His mother's devotion and simple lifestyle left a lasting impact on him. As a child, Gandhi was shy and reserved. He was not particularly strong or athletic, but he was curious and observant. He attended local schools where he learned the basics of reading, writing, and arithmetic. Gandhi was an average student, but he showed an early interest in moral stories and the teachings of truth and honesty. One incident from his childhood stood out as a defining moment. Gandhi once stole a piece of gold from his brother to pay off a debt. The guilt weighed heavily on him, and he decided to confess to his father. He wrote a letter admitting his mistake, expressing deep remorse and promising never to do it again. His father read the letter silently, his eyes filled with tears. But instead of punishing him, he forgave Gandhi, showing him the power of compassion and understanding. This experience left a profound impact on young Gandhi. It was the beginning of his belief in the power of truth and the importance of confession and redemption. As he grew older, Gandhi continued to live by the principles of honesty and simplicity. His mother's influence remained strong, and he began to appreciate the value of nonviolence and tolerance. In school, Gandhi was an unremarkable student, often shy and hesitant to speak. However, he was known for his discipline and commitment to truth. He avoided trouble and tried to follow the teachings of his parents. His family expected him to pursue a career that would uphold their honor and legacy. At the age of 13, Gandhi entered into an arranged marriage with Kasturba Mukherjee. This was a common practice in India at the time. Though they were just children, they began a lifelong partnership that would endure many challenges. Kasturba would later stand by Gandhi's side through his struggles and his triumphs. Gandhi's teenage years were typical of many young boys in India. He attended school, helped with family duties, and began to understand the responsibilities of adulthood. Despite his humble beginnings, Gandhi had a strong desire to explore the world and learn more. This curiosity would eventually lead him far from his small town in Porbandar. The foundation of his beliefs was already being formed during these early years. Compassion, truth, and nonviolence were not just teachings, they were a way of life. Gandhi's family soon decided that he should continue his studies abroad. They believed that a legal education would allow him to bring honor to the family and serve his community. This decision marked the beginning of a journey that would take him across oceans and into the heart of the British Empire. It was a journey that would change not only his life but the course of history. But before that journey could begin, Gandhi had to make a choice. He would have to leave behind his family, his friends, and the only life he had ever known. It was a decision filled with uncertainty and risk. But Gandhi was determined to pursue his education and discover what the world had to offer. His family gathered to send him off, offering prayers and blessings. His mother, in particular, was deeply emotional, but she supported his decision with faith and hope. Gandhi promised her that he would hold onto his values, remain true to his faith, and never forget the principles she had taught him. With that promise, he boarded a ship bound for London, stepping into a world far different from the one he knew. It was the beginning of a new chapter in his life, one that would test his beliefs and shape his destiny. In London, Gandhi would learn about law, but he would also learn about society, justice, and the struggles of people around the world. His journey was just beginning, and the seeds of change were about to be sown. What would happen in this foreign land? How would his experiences transform him? These questions would soon be answered as Gandhi embarked on the path that would make him a leader, a revolutionary, and a symbol of peace for generations to come. The journey to London was long and filled with anticipation. Gandhi had never traveled so far from home, and the sights and sounds of the vast ocean were both thrilling and intimidating. Upon his arrival in England, Gandhi was struck by the difference in lifestyle and culture. The bustling streets of London were filled with carriages, markets, and people dressed in fine clothing. He had come to study law, to become a barrister, and to fulfill the expectations of his family. But adjusting to life in England was not easy. The weather was cold and damp, far different from the warm climate of India. The food was unfamiliar, and he struggled to adapt to the English way of life. Despite these challenges, Gandhi was determined to succeed. He enrolled at the Inner Temple, one of the 4 Inns of Court in London, where he began his studies in law. He faced many struggles, not just with his studies, but with fitting into English society. He dressed in Western clothes, tried to adopt English manners, and even took lessons in dancing and elocution to fit in. But deep down, Gandhi struggled with his identity. He felt disconnected from his roots, torn between the traditions of his homeland and the expectations of Western society. During his time in London, Gandhi discovered the London Vegetarian Society. This organization introduced him to a group of like-minded individuals who shared his beliefs in non-violence and simple living. Through this community, he began to explore philosophical texts that would shape his thinking. He read works by Henry David Thoreau, Leo Tolstoy, and the Bhagavad Gita, which became his spiritual guide. The teachings of nonviolence, civil disobedience, and self-sacrifice resonated deeply with him. Gandhi started to understand that true strength came not from power or wealth, but from truth and moral conviction. His time in England was transformative. He learned not only the law, but also the importance of staying true to one's principles, even in the face of adversity. By the time Gandhi finished his studies and was called to the bar in 1891, he had grown not just as a lawyer, but as a thinker and a leader. He returned to India filled with hope and ambition, ready to start his career as a lawyer. But the India he returned to was not the same as the one he had left. Colonial rule had tightened its grip, and injustice was visible everywhere. Gandhi struggled to establish his law practice, facing challenges and setbacks that tested his patience and belief in the system. Despite his Western education, Gandhi found it difficult to find work. He moved from city to city, hoping for opportunities that never seemed to come. Just when it seemed that his dreams were slipping away, a letter arrived that would change his life. It was an invitation to work in South Africa for an Indian trading company. The opportunity promised steady work and a chance to practice law in a foreign land. Gandhi accepted, not knowing that this decision would mark the beginning of his transformation into a leader of historic proportions. He packed his bags and set off for South Africa, leaving behind his homeland once again. But this journey would be unlike any other he had taken. In South Africa, Gandhi would witness injustices that would challenge everything he believed. He would face discrimination, humiliation, and hardship, but he would also discover his true purpose. The seeds of non-violent resistance were about to be planted, and Gandhi's life was about to change forever. Gandhi's arrival in South Africa marked a turning point in his life. He had come as a young lawyer to work for an Indian trading company, expecting to practice law and return to India. But what he found in South Africa shocked him. The Indian community there was treated as second-class citizens. They faced harsh discrimination, were denied basic rights, and were often victims of violence and abuse. Gandhi experienced this injustice firsthand during a journey to Pretoria. He had purchased a first-class ticket for a train ride, but when the conductor saw that he was Indian, Gandhi was asked to move to third class. Gandhi refused, insisting that he had paid for first class and had every right to remain there. His refusal led to him being forcibly removed from the train at Pietermaritzburg and left shivering on the platform overnight. This event was a defining moment. Gandhi realized that the struggle for dignity and justice was far greater than his personal ambitions. He decided that he could not stand by and watch his fellow Indians suffer. This was the birth of Gandhi's resistance against injustice. He began to organize the Indian community in South Africa, uniting them to fight for their rights. He founded the Natal Indian Congress in 1894, which became a platform for advocating for civil rights. Gandhi spoke out against unfair laws, racial discrimination, and the harsh treatment of Indian laborers. But his fight was not violent. Inspired by the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita and the principles of nonviolence, Gandhi developed a new form of protest, satyagraha. Satyagraha, which means truth force or soul force, was based on the belief that nonviolent resistance is the most powerful way to fight oppression. It called for peaceful protest, civil disobedience, and unwavering commitment to the truth. Gandhi led peaceful marches, organized strikes, and encouraged Indians to refuse to obey unjust laws. His methods were unconventional but incredibly powerful. The government responded with arrests and harsh punishments, but Gandhi and his followers did not waver. Each time they were arrested, they returned stronger, more united, and more determined. Gandhi's leadership in South Africa lasted for more than 2 decades. He fought against discriminatory laws like the Black Act and the requirement for Indians to carry passes at all times. He also advocated for the rights of women, the end of indentured labor, and fair treatment for all people, regardless of race. Through his actions, Gandhi proved that nonviolence was not a sign of weakness, but a weapon of great power. He showed that real strength lies in the ability to endure suffering without retaliation. By the time Gandhi left South Africa in 1915, he had not only transformed the Indian community, but had also inspired people around the world. He returned to India with a new vision, a vision of nonviolent resistance that could be used to free his homeland from British rule. The experiences in South Africa had prepared him for the greater battle that lay ahead. Gandhi's journey in South Africa was the forge that shaped him into the leader he would become. His time there taught him the power of unity, the importance of standing up for truth, and the strength of peaceful resistance. As he boarded the ship back to India, Gandhi knew that his mission was just beginning. His homeland awaited him, and the seeds of revolution were ready to be sown. Gandhi's return to India in 1915 was met with great anticipation. He had spent over 2 decades in South Africa fighting for civil rights, and now he was ready to bring his experience and principles to the struggle for Indian independence. Upon his arrival, Gandhi traveled across the country to understand the struggles of ordinary people. He visited villages, listened to farmers, laborers, and merchants, and saw firsthand the harsh realities of British rule. He witnessed poverty, heavy taxation, and the suffering of farmers forced to grow cash crops instead of food. The British-controlled industries left many Indians unemployed, and those who did work were paid meager wages. Gandhi was deeply moved by what he saw. He knew that the fight for independence would not be easy, but he was determined to lead the people of India toward freedom using the principles of nonviolence and truth. He began organizing nonviolent protests, urging people to resist British laws through peaceful means. His first major campaign in India was the Champaran Satyagraha in 1917. Champaran, a district in Bihar, was home to thousands of poor farmers who were forced by the British to grow indigo, a crop that brought them no profit. The farmers were left in debt, struggling to survive. Gandhi arrived in Champaran, determined to help the farmers reclaim their rights. He encouraged them to stand up against unfair practices, to refuse to pay unjust taxes, and to demand fair treatment. The British authorities tried to stop Gandhi, arresting him for encouraging civil disobedience. But his arrest only brought more attention to the farmers' plight. Crowds gathered in support of Gandhi, demanding his release and the end of oppressive policies. Faced with growing pressure, the British government was forced to negotiate. The farmers won important concessions, and Gandhi emerged as a national leader. His success in Champaran proved that nonviolent resistance could achieve real change. This victory inspired Gandhi to take on even greater challenges. He led protests against high taxes in Quetta, and he fought for the rights of textile workers in Ahmedabad. Each victory strengthened his belief in the power of nonviolence and civil disobedience. Gandhi's leadership was uniting people from all walks of life: Hindus, Muslims, rich and poor, educated and uneducated. His philosophy of self-reliance also began to spread. Gandhi encouraged Indians to spin their own cloth instead of buying British-made textiles. This movement became known as the Swadeshi movement. The spinning wheel became a symbol of Indian independence, representing self-sufficiency and resistance to British control. Gandhi himself spun cloth every day as a symbol of his commitment to this cause. But Gandhi's methods were not always accepted by everyone. Some leaders believed that only violent revolution could free India from British rule. They argued that peaceful protests would not be enough. Gandhi remained firm in his belief that nonviolence was the only way to achieve lasting freedom. He believed that true independence could only be achieved if it was won with dignity and peace. The movement grew stronger, and Gandhi became known as the Mahatma, which means great soul. People from all over India began to follow his teachings, joining his peaceful protests and supporting his vision for a free and united nation. Gandhi's journey was far from over, but the seeds of revolution had been planted. The spirit of nonviolence had begun to spread, and the people of India were ready to fight for their freedom with courage and unity. The path to independence was still long and filled with challenges, but Gandhi had sparked a movement that would change the course of history forever. The fight for India's independence had gained momentum, and Gandhi was now recognized as the leader of the movement. His principles of nonviolence and civil disobedience were inspiring millions across the country to stand up against British rule. In 1930, Gandhi launched one of his most famous campaigns, the Salt March. The British government had imposed heavy taxes on salt, a basic necessity for every Indian household. This tax was seen as a symbol of British oppression, and Gandhi decided it was time to challenge it. He began a 240-mile journey on foot from Sabarmati Ashram to the coastal town of Dandi. He was joined by followers, young and old, who walked alongside him, inspired by his courage and determination. The journey lasted 24 days, with Gandhi stopping in villages along the way to speak about independence and the power of nonviolent resistance. His words ignited hope in the hearts of the people, and the crowds grew larger with each passing day. On April 5, 1930, Gandhi and his followers reached the shores of Dandi. There, in a symbolic act of defiance, Gandhi picked up a handful of salt from the ground. This simple act marked the beginning of a nationwide movement against the British salt monopoly. Thousands of Indians began to make their own salt, defying British laws. The government responded with mass arrests, imprisoning over 60,000 people, including Gandhi himself. But the Salt March had done its work. It drew global attention to India's struggle for freedom and showcased the strength of peaceful resistance. The world began to see the injustice of British rule, and Gandhi became a symbol of hope and justice. Even from prison, Gandhi continued to inspire his followers. Letters and messages were smuggled out, urging people to remain peaceful and united. His spirit was unbroken, and his influence continued to grow. Gandhi's methods of nonviolence spread far beyond India. Leaders like Martin Luther King Jr. in the United States and Nelson Mandela in South Africa would later adopt his philosophy to fight for civil rights and equality. After his release from prison, Gandhi continued his work for Indian independence. He led campaigns for the rights of the untouchables, whom he called Harijans, meaning children of God. He believed that true independence would only be meaningful if it included equality for all, regardless of caste or religion. His vision was not only for political freedom, but for social harmony and unity. Gandhi's influence reached every corner of India. His simple lifestyle, his dedication to truth, and his unyielding commitment to nonviolence inspired millions to join the struggle. But the road to freedom was not easy. Conflicts arose between Hindus and Muslims, threatening the unity of the nation. Gandhi worked tirelessly to promote peace, fasting, and praying for unity and understanding. Despite the growing tensions, Gandhi never wavered in his belief that India could achieve independence through peaceful means. His faith in nonviolence remained unshaken, even in the face of violence and hatred. In 1942, Gandhi launched the Quit India movement, calling for the immediate withdrawal of British forces from Indian soil. His message was clear: India would no longer accept foreign rule. The British responded with force, arresting thousands of protesters and imprisoning Gandhi once again. But the movement had already gained momentum, and the spirit of independence spread across the nation. The final push for freedom had begun, and Gandhi's dream of a free India was on the verge of becoming reality. His leadership and unyielding commitment to nonviolence had transformed a nation, uniting millions in the fight for justice and equality. The Quit India movement marked the final chapter in India's struggle for independence. Gandhi's call for complete and immediate freedom inspired millions to take to the streets in peaceful protest. Across the nation, people refused to work for the British, boycotted British goods, and demanded self-rule. The British government responded with force. They arrested thousands of protesters, shut down newspapers, and tried to silence the voices calling for freedom. Gandhi, along with many of his closest allies, was imprisoned. But the movement could not be stopped. From behind bars, Gandhi continued to inspire. His faith in nonviolence never wavered. He fasted for peace, urged his followers to remain strong, and called for unity between Hindus and Muslims. As the movement grew, the British began to realize that their control over India was slipping. The world watched as ordinary men and women stood up to the empire with nothing but courage and conviction. After years of struggle, sacrifice, and unity, the British finally agreed to leave India. On August 15, 1947, India achieved independence. Gandhi's dream had come true, not through violence, but through the power of non-violent resistance. But independence came with a cost. The partition of India and Pakistan led to widespread violence, the displacement of millions, and deep sorrow. Gandhi was heartbroken by the division and the bloodshed that followed. He walked through villages, prayed for peace, and pleaded for unity. His final fast in 1948 was a plea for harmony and understanding. He called for an end to the hatred and the beginning of a new era of peace. But Gandhi's journey came to a sudden and tragic end on January 30, 1948. While attending a prayer meeting in New Delhi, he was assassinated. His death shocked the world and left India mourning the loss of its greatest leader. People from all walks of life gathered to pay their respects. His ashes were scattered in the Ganges River, a symbol of his eternal connection to the land he loved so dearly. Gandhi's legacy lived on. His principles of nonviolence and truth continued to inspire movements for civil rights and social change around the globe. Leaders like Martin Luther King Jr., Nelson Mandela, and many others would draw strength from his teachings. Today, Gandhi is remembered not only as the father of the nation in India, but as a global symbol of peace and justice. His life showed the world that true strength lies not in force, but in the power of truth and nonviolence. His message is as relevant today as it was during his lifetime. In a world often divided by conflict and hatred, Gandhi's example reminds us that peace is always possible, and that change begins with a single act of courage. The story of Mahatma Gandhi is more than just the story of one man. It is the story of how truth, love, and nonviolence can change the world. His legacy continues to light the path for those who believe in justice and peace. Mahatma Gandhi's life is a testament to the power of nonviolence and the strength of the human spirit. His journey reminds us that real change begins with the courage to stand up for what is right, even when the path is difficult. His legacy lives on, inspiring movements for civil rights and justice across the world. As you reflect on Gandhi's life, remember his words, "Be the change you wish to see in the world." His story proves that true power lies in peace, unity, and the pursuit of truth. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the life of Mahatma Gandhi. May his story inspire you to believe in the power of truth and the possibility of change.